Good day, everyone. How are you all doing? Hope everyone is doing great, feeling groovy, realizing, of course, that the government really, really, really doesn't love you, and also realizing that pretty much everything you've been told since the day you were born is a lie. It is July the 17th of 2025, 1:40 p.m. Mr. Buzz coming to you from the communist shithole that is known as Ontario, Canada. And this time I'm going to talk about what I consider to be one of the biggest causes of evil in the world: money. Money, assets, wealth. The thing that causes greed and selfishness and evil, to put it plainly. Now, for some weird reason, since I was a child, I liked having a little money to buy something I wanted. I was heavily into hockey cards when I was a kid, and as long as I had money for hockey cards, it's all that mattered. But I never really cared about money very much. Everyone else was chasing it. I have a father who is obsessed with it, actually, completely obsessed with chasing money. I have a rich uncle, my father's brother, who's beyond obsessed with it, and he was really rich too. The greediest, most selfish person in the family, but he was the richest one in the family. I think that's usually how it goes. I always watched these people chase money and letting their lives revolve around it, and I just shook my head like, wow. What a terrible existence that must be. Now, not saying I want to be completely penniless. Of course not. No one does. In this society, you need enough money to get by. The price of food right now is, seriously crazy. A watermelon in the grocery store the other day was $16. $16 for a watermelon. You'd think a $16 watermelon would be the size of a pickup truck. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw $16 on it. It's really hard to survive now. What used to cost me $200 at the grocery store is now $350, easy. So obviously, money's necessary, and if you're going to feed yourself well and live in a reasonable kind of accommodation, you're going to need a fair bit, especially here in Canada. Our economy is shot and destroyed, so our currency is not worth anything. And Canada's a corrupt country, so the taxation is beyond belief. I heard them complaining about how they get taxed in California one day on a video. I looked up the tax rate. It's double that here in Canada, what they're paying. What they're complaining about, it's not even in the ballpark of what's going on here. So I understand people stressing about money. I have stressed. If you don't have money for your rent, you don't have money to fix your car, whatever, right? Don't have enough for groceries for that month, or your power bill, whatever it is. But beyond that, once you have enough for those things, you have food to eat, you have a place to live. If you need a car, well, okay, you get a car to drive, and everything's copacetic. This obsession with being rich is really what I'm talking about. And people's willingness to forget about morality 100% when money is offered. So, our politicians, they're all bought by China. Pretty much the whole government. China's bought them off. Now they're doing extremely destructive things to this country for China because they've been given large sums of money. China comes down, somebody from China comes down, opens up this big suit or briefcase full of money, shows it to them. They're like, what do you want me to do? And they give their demands, and they go, I can do all that. Yep, give me that briefcase. They don't care about anything else. Once their eyeballs make contact with all those bills, something happens to people. They'll sell their own mother for the right price. That is most people, unfortunately. Now, a lot of people say, Mr. Buzz, you're a bit of a pessimist. You don't have any good outlooks on anything. You have a negative view of pretty much everything. Well, fair enough. I consider myself a realist. I know there are good people who won't sell their mother for the right price, but most people will. And I have seen this for real. Like, I've seen proof of it. I've seen people sell their own family members down the river because the price was right. So, in my opinion, money is, as the old saying goes, the root of all evil. Just look what the billionaires and stuff are doing. Like, the immense evil that these people commit because they can, because they have all this money, and the more evil they commit, the more money they get. They just keep on. When you meet a rich person, a lot of people think, oh, this must be a great person. He's successful and, he's got all this, he's got a private jet. What it probably says, he's the opposite of a good person. He probably did really shady things to get all that money, because accumulating a large amount of wealth like that is not easy to do, especially if you're doing it legally, like honestly and legitimately. It's very difficult to amass billions of dollars. But if you have a criminal mind and you don't really have any morals and you don't mind selling people down the river or taking bribes or whatever it is you're into, money laundering, then you can accumulate a lot of money pretty quickly. So when you meet a rich person, they might have gotten it legitimately, but if they're really super, super rich, they probably did some pretty awful stuff to get that money, and they probably don't have good morals at all. And here's another thing about it. The more somebody has, the greedier they are and the stingier they are. Okay? My first experiences with this concept of richer people being stingy versus poor people being more generous was when I worked at a Wendy's, a fast food place, when I was 18 years old. And they trained me to run the drive-through window. So I'm doing that, and we actually used to get tips sometimes from the customers, especially the ones who knew us, and they'd throw in an extra $1 or whatever, tip for you. Cool. Guess what? I never got one from a rich person. It was the poor people with rusty old cars that were barely running. They were the ones who would give you an extra $1. The Mercedes all shined up coming through. He's going to bitch. You didn't give him enough ketchup. He's going to say, oh, you missed 5 cents of my change or something. There's no way he's going to give you anything. It was never the rich people that were generous. And I remember going to my father and telling him that. I was really shocked when I see the Mercedes coming. I think, isn't that where I'm going to get the tip? My father said, oh, no. That's how they got all that money. They don't give it away. That's why they got it. Totally true. Being wealthy seems to make you mean and stingy. It really does. I have been poor all of my life. I've literally been poor all of my life. When I had my own business, I owned a music school years back when I was married to my second wife. And it was the best I'd ever done in my life. I did have a little bit of success, and I wasn't dirt poor for those years. I lived pretty good. It was short-lived. It was, I don't know, that whole thing went on about 7-8 years. And then it all fell apart, and I got divorced, and poorer than ever since then. This is definitely the poorest I've ever been, but I've always been poor. Even growing up, my parents were okay, but we weren't wealthy by any means. We were lower to middle class, something like that. We had a tiny little house, and we drove rusty cars, and that's how it was. I didn't care. It bothered my father. And he worried about what other people thought about our status in society and stuff. It's like, who gives a shit about that? The area I grew up in, there was a lot of wealth there. And everybody was trying to keep up with the Jones, as they say, right? You're trying to keep up with the neighbors, and you want to have a nicer car than they got in their driveway. I never gave a shit about any of that. I don't want to go on expensive vacations. I don't want a fancy car, because then you're scared to even sit in it and get dirt on the seats, you know. I don't want any of it. Things that matter to me, good music, good relationships, a good time with some friends, a good loving relationship with somebody that really respects and loves you. These are the things that matter. Being close to the Lord. Being close to the Lord is the most important of all, and it doesn't take money to do that. If you're obsessed with money, and maybe some of you are, it's something a lot of people are taught. Especially if they come from really poor, humble beginnings, right? Really poor when you're a kid. Maybe you have a real rough time through those years and you want to do the opposite when you get older. It's like, I'm not going to be poor anymore. I'm going to make sure I'm wealthy. Or maybe you want to be wealthy for more noble reasons. Maybe you want to be wealthy so you can make a change in the world with your wealth. That if I was wealthy, that is exactly what I'd do. That is exactly what I do. But if you just want to be wealthy because you want to have more than everyone else, you want to be greedy about it, and you need to live this lavish lifestyle, you need to be driven around in a limousine, you need a private jet. This is Kash Patel, apparently, I just found this morning. This FBI director that everybody's trusting so much, he's got a private jet. What's he doing with a private jet? He's obviously one of them. He's in the club that you ain't in. I was shocked. I had no idea he was rich like that, but he is. He shouldn't be. Everybody's asking now, how do you get so rich? No one understands. He's got a private freaking jet. Terrible. They're calling him the jet setter. That bunch that everybody put their trust in, I think the truth is going to come out about who they all are. So if you need a private jet, you better have a good reason for it, or you really don't. If you just want a private jet because you want to fly to Paris every morning for breakfast or whatever, that is the wrong way to go in this world. I don't understand it. I never have. I understand wanting to have enough to be comfortable, so you don't have to, look in your cupboard and go, I got 3 cans of tuna and that's all I got to eat for the next 2 weeks. No, that's not good, right? No one wants to live like that. But I know, even though I am pretty much dirt poor, I'm happier than a lot of people who've got tons of money. All that money comes with worry and stress, too. I used to landscape for these people, okay? Their last name was Bethune, and that's a really highfalutin, high society name where I come from, okay? The Bethunes were wealthy, ultra wealthy. Did it do them any good? Nope. One of their children was kidnapped when he was quite young for ransom that they had to pay. They paid a large sum of money to get their son back. And then years later, there was an attempt to kidnap their daughter the same way. But that one was foiled. So by the time I was landscaping for them, talk about security just to get on the property, it was nuts the way they lived. And I remember just looking around and talking to the owner, saying, man, I would not want to have your money if this is what it does. They were paranoid all the time, looking around, wondering if people were going to come in and kidnap their kids. How is that a better life? I mean, it's really not. It's really not. And again, as wealthy as they wouldn't so much as give you a cold glass of water on a hot day when you were there. They weren't. The wealthier people I worked for they were the stingiest. If you worked for somebody who was just a regular not wealthy person at all. They'd come out with food for you and, give you cans of pop, whatever, give you a tip at the end of the day. You never get that from the wealthy ones. So, like the Buddhists do, detach from stuff and money, material things. The material world is evil. Materialism is an evil concept. You want to be happy spiritually. You want to be content with yourself and who you are. And you want to be able to face the Lord on Judgment Day and know that you didn't scam a bunch of people and steal from them and embezzle money and do money laundering, and human trafficking is a big way to get rich nowadays. It's just awful, the things people do for money. I have no understanding of how their minds get to that, why it's so important. And then when they get all that money, then they're miserable. So I honestly think that poor people can be happier. Not dirt poor, because that's, when you don't have food, that sucks, yes. But as soon as you've got enough that you're not starving and you have a warm, secure place to live, that's all you need. That's it. So let me know what you think of money. I'm really interested to hear. Does anybody share my opinion on it, or do you think I'm crazy and think money's the greatest thing in the world? Maybe you do. That's the beauty of this world. We can all have our own opinions, and that's totally fine. So let me know what you think. I'm interested to hear. Whatever it is you think about it, I hope you remember this. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life.